So you end up spending some time scrolling through music TikTok, and you end up finding all of these singers and songwriters who are sharing their art with the world. And you think to yourself, well, I have melodies to share, but I don't know how to start. So you type into YouTube something along the lines of how to start recording music. And that leads you right here to this video. Hi, I'm Richard Ashby, and I'm here to guide you and show you the way to start recording your own music today. One of the main gripes that I hear with people who are trying to start is that they think it's this massively expensive thing, but it really doesn't have to be. We're living in this really incredible time where you can get started doing almost anything for not much money. There was absolutely a time in the past where you had to spend thousands of dollars to get into a record studio, but we don't live there anymore. In fact, you can get a high quality recording setup for less than $300. And I don't know about you, but $300 is a lot better than a couple thousand. Now, before we get started here, there are a couple assumptions that I'm gonna make. Probably the most important thing to assume is that you already have a computer. Just to make sure that the machine that you're using is powerful enough, make sure that the processor is equal to or greater than about an Intel i5. Memory-wise, you're gonna want about 8 gigabytes of RAM minimum, and then 16 would be even better. And then have a hard drive, whether that be external or internal, large enough that you can save all your files on. The computer is arguably the most important part of this whole equation because it acts as the brain of this whole system. So if you have a computer that isn't powerful enough to handle it, all the other equipment becomes obsolete. My computer of choice is the 2018 MacBook Pro. I primarily bought this machine for school, as I was going to be starting college around the time that it was released and needed a computer to handle the workload. It was the base model of the MacBook Pro at the time, so the specs aren't the highest, having an Intel i5, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and 256 gigabytes of storage, and yet it's been able to handle anything that I've thrown at it. And I think this just shows you that you don't need the absolute highest spec'd out machine in order to make music. Now, if the computer is the brain of our operation, you can think of the audio interface kind of like the nervous system. The audio interface is the machine that handles the transformation between our input, say it be a sound or MIDI, into the computer that we can then later edit. These aren't the only purposes that they serve, but it is the main one. And because it's so central in the core of our recording process, we want to make sure that we have a high quality one. Now, most audio interfaces come in USB, Firewire, or Thunderbolt interfaces. Now, for the purposes of cost and compatibility, all the interfaces I'm going to be recommending are all USB. With the audio interface being such a crucial part of the recording system, it's important for it to be robust enough to handle the needs of the studio. That's why my recommendation is for the PreSonus AudioBox USB 96. This audio interface boasts 2 mic instrument inputs, a headphone output with 0 latency for real-time monitoring, MIDI in and out for synthesizers and other external hardware, and balanced outputs for studio monitors. The AudioBox 96 is powered by USB, which means there's no wall adapter and is completely powered by the computer. With a steel body, this interface was built tough and made even to last on the road, so if you ever need to take your studio mobile, you'll feel safe knowing how strong it really is. This product also comes with the PreSonus Studio Artist software and Studio Magic Suite software bundle, which makes sure that from the second you open the box, you can start making music right away. And all of this comes at the surprisingly low cost of $100, which keeps us well below our limit. I think it's a fair assumption to say everyone knows what a microphone is. But when you're just starting out, you may not be aware that there are different types of microphones, in the way that they all do the same thing in capturing sound, but the method in which they capture sound differs. And because their methods of capturing sound are different, the way the sound comes out is also going to vary slightly. At this level, the 2 kinds of microphones that we really should be looking at are dynamic and condenser. Now, just as a really quick crash course, dynamic microphones are really good at picking up loud, direct sounds. They generally have a pretty low sensitivity and a higher gain threshold, and because of that, you'll see it used mostly in live circumstances. They're also really great for recording drums, really loud vocals, or even brass instruments, just anything that's really loud. They're also better at taking in the sound of what's in front of them and getting rid of the ambience of what's around them. Condenser microphones, on the other hand, are a lot more sensitive to sound. And because of this, they're used a lot more in the studio setting rather than live. And because they're a lot more sensitive, you can capture a lot more of the nuances and subtleties in your performance. And these are the types of microphones that are typically chosen for vocals or acoustic guitars or pianos. Besides how they actually record sound, the defining quality that's different between a dynamic and a condenser microphone is the way they're powered. The dynamic microphone is basically plug and play. You plug it in and then it just works. The condenser microphone, however, needs to be externally powered. Remember how I was talking about the audio interfaces and mentioned that they have way more functionality than just what I mentioned there. This is one of the extra functions. The audio interface needs to be able to produce 48 volts of phantom power in order to power a condenser microphone. Luckily, basically all audio interfaces nowadays have this 48 volts of power built into them, and all you need to do is press a button to turn it on, which doesn't make using a condenser microphone any more inconvenient than using any other type. Because we have a low budget, we're going to want a microphone that can take on many different characteristics in many different environments. And because of that, we're going to pick the condenser microphone because of its ability to capture these nuances. Along with the audio interface, the microphone we'll need to connect it to are going to be the largest segments of the money that we'll spend on the studio. We need a microphone that will give us a natural open sound while also being able to capture the rich nuances of our performance. And the Audio-Technica AT2020 is perfect at just that. As a side-address cardioid polar pattern microphone, it does a great job at picking up sound in front without picking up too much intrusive sound from the surrounding sources. And if you like the way these voiceover sounds, that means you already enjoy the sound of the AT2020. And at $99, you'll probably enjoy the price too. So we're going to need some way of listening to our music, and we have two options for that. And that's either going to be headphones or studio monitors. With headphones, you have two different types. You have closed back and open back, and each one has its own benefits and drawbacks to it. Now, each of these types are exactly what they sound like. Closed back headphones have the backs of them completely sealed off, and because of this, they have really good isolation and allow you to focus in really on what you're hearing. There are some downsides to them being closed back, such as unwanted frequencies that could be created, or just them being really hot to have on your head for extended periods of time because there's no ventilation going through. Open back headphones, on the other hand, have open backs, which means there's more ventilation, so they're not as hot to wear, and they also have a more natural sound response because of that openness. But that doesn't mean they're not without faults. Due to that open back, you'll also get a lot of sound leaking, meaning that the audio that you're listening to may be coming out the back end too, which isn't great for recording music. Now, there are some people who swear by having two sets of headphones, a closed back one for recording and an open back one for mixing. Now, for just starting out, you only really need one pair, and you need one that can handle both situations, and that's going to be the closed back headphones. Accurate audio monitoring is crucial for making music, and the Audio-Technica M series of headphones are known for exactly that. The M30X are among the cheapest of this series, but don't let its $79 price tag scare you. This pair of headphones features 40mm drivers that are more than capable of giving you the audio response that you need. And not only do they sound great, they feel great as well, with comfortable ear cups that are easy to wear for long periods of time. There's even a cute little pouch that it comes with. At this price point, what you're getting isn't many frills, but you will get great sound quality at a decent price. This part is technically optional, but it is helpful if you can get a pair of studio monitors to listen to your music on. With studio monitors, you'll suffer from ear fatigue less and actually get a better idea from what your music actually sounds like. Studio monitors can range from very cheap to very expensive with all the new technologies and sound rendering systems that they've created, but for right now, I'll recommend the PreSonus Ares 3.5s. And if you want to know more about them, I actually made a video about it, so I'll leave a link to it right below the like button. Now, I didn't mention it here, but you are going to need cables to make everything work, obviously. The audio box has a USB Type B port on the back of it, and then your computer will have USB Type A or maybe C, just make it match. If you decide to use studio monitors, you're going to need 1/4-inch cables, which are the same kinds that guitars use. And for your microphone, you're going to need XLR cables, which are the specific kind of cables that microphones use. And of course, you can find all of these on Amazon or your local music store. So assuming you got the materials that I recommended, that means you got the audio interface for $100, the microphone for $100, and the headphones for about $80, which puts us at just about $280, which is below our $300 budget. So we did it. The only thing I didn't mention is technically optional, but it does make your life a little easier, and that is to grab a Midi keyboard. The one that I use is the Akai MPK Mini. This is the Mark II. There is a newer version, the Mark III out. Midi keyboards are as small, this one is only 25 keys, or as big. I've seen full-size 88 key Midi keyboards before. I think I've even seen a 96 one time. But the good thing about these is that because they don't transmit any sound themselves, they all kind of do the same general thing. No matter what price point you're at, you're gonna get the same general thing. So you can kind of cheap out on a Midi keyboard and still get away with it. Technically, you don't even need one because you can draw in the notes with the keyboard and mouse, but it is a lot more intuitive as musicians to play in our melodies and chords. Some even have extra features like these knobs or drum pads or a pitch and modulation control. But if you don't need any of that, then that just brings your price point even lower. Now we have all of the individual components that are going to make up our recording system, and now we just need to put them together. This process isn't as difficult as it seems. You really just have to plug everything in exactly where you think you would plug everything in at. The first thing you're going to do is going to take the USB cable, plug it into the back of the audio interface, and then into your computer. Next, what you're going to do is take the male side of your XLR cable, and that goes into the audio interface, and then the female side goes into the microphone itself. And if you got a condenser microphone, make sure you press the 48-volt button to make sure that you're sending the phantom power to the microphone. Next up are the headphones. You're going to need the adapter to change it from a 3.5mm jack to a 1/4" jack. Put the 1/4" adapter on top of the 3.5mm jack, and then you can put that into the phone's port on the back of the audio interface. Now if you have studio monitors, you can plug the 1/4" into the back of the studio monitors and then to the respective left or right outputs of the audio interface. Just make sure you don't get those mixed up or you'll have to go back and switch them around later. And that's it. Congratulations, you have a studio. The only thing left is to pick out which digital audio workstation you want to work on, and there's tons of free ones like GarageBand or Ableton Live Lite or even Pro Tools First, or I think BandLab is free. There's tons of them. I was even thinking about making a video about a few of them, so if you want to see that, let me know in the comments down below. This setup will give you tons of headroom to grow and create for years to come. Ask me how I know. All the materials I recommended to you are the same ones that I use every single day, and I still don't feel like I've outgrown them, even though I've been using them for years and years. I hope this video taught you something. If it did, leave a like, let me know what you learned in the comments, and even subscribe, all the YouTube things. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.